So if you are not your thoughts, where are they coming from?
I think our thoughts are just a byproduct of our experiences as humans, right? We think thoughts involuntarily, just like our heart beats involuntarily. They're a byproduct of our psychology, of our neuroses, of our conditioning, of our karma. They're, depending on what lineage and practice you study in, our thoughts are there. And what they are and their purpose, it's a myriad of reasons, again, depending on what tradition you kind of focus on. We're not saying thoughts are bad. We're not saying the mind is bad. We're saying just choose which thoughts you decide to take on and embody. And over time, with practice, with wisdom, with maturity, with compassion, your thoughts begin to change because the lens in which you see the world begin to change. And so they'll be less self-deprecating after a little while, and they'll be more compassionate, and they'll be more loving, and they'll be more understanding. But if we're constantly looking at the world first through this lens of like, the world is against me, I'm suffering, I'm a victim, et cetera, a whole host of other afflictions, then naturally our thoughts are going to reflect that. We're going to have that same experience. Mm-hmm. So I think the way out of it is through the cultivation of a practice that really brings you into the body and allows you to see clearly.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And I think it's that labeling that we attach to the thoughts of now I am, and we've identified with that thing. What do you say I'm putting this in parentheses, goal of meditation is to have a thoughtless practice?
Do I think the goal is to have a thoughtless practice?
Mm-hmm.
No, not really. I think I think the goal is so personal. Like, I used to be really rigid in why I would tell people to meditate. It's for liberation, it's for freedom, it's for this, that. But the older I've gotten and the more mature I've gotten and the more I've practiced with other teachers, I think we all will come to practice with a certain mission or a goal. And that could be simply, I just want to be free from suffering, which is like one of the highest aspirations, right? Like if you're anxious and if you're insomniac, like you just want to suffer less. And that's really the heart of Buddhist meditation, is to free yourself from suffering. But some people are like, hey, I just want to be less stressed, which I don't think we understand is also the same thing. Like, I want to free myself from suffering. I want to feel more connected to my partner. Even that aspiration comes from the same intention. I want to free myself from suffering, because if we're not feeling connected to our partner, there is something within us that is suffering. So what the goal is, it really depends on what your intention is. For me, it's to find a sense of liberation. It's to free myself from suffering. It's to clear the karma that I've accumulated over many lifetimes. It's to be the best dad that I can be. It's to cause less harm in the world. It probably changes every day, but it's rooted in, I just want to be, I just want to come back to that place where I know I'm a good person.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree that there are so many goals and outcomes, and every day is a different experience too, that you just have to surrender to and see what needs to come through. So I'm wondering, for someone who feels like, you know what, I'm sitting down at my desk all day, I'm so sedentary. So to sit down for meditation for 20 minutes twice a day, sometimes they say it's too much. Do you think that we can cultivate the same benefits from a moving or breathwork meditation?
Yeah, I think we think big and we start small. Like that's how we start. Like, it's for someone that's never been a meditator to go for 20 minutes twice a day, it's like a big leap. It was for me as well, right? So I think like practices that introduce us to that experience, and we call it glimpses, that give us a little glimpse of presence or a glimpse of spaciousness, are great. So breath work just brings us into the body. A movement practice brings us into the body. But then to be able to add like a 5-minute meditation to that is great. And if you can only do it once a day for 5 minutes, amazing. Do it every day for a week, and then maybe the week after you add 2 extra minutes to that. The week after that, you add 3 minutes, and in 3 weeks, you're meditating for 10 minutes, once or twice a day. That's how we begin. Like, I wouldn't try to be a neurosurgeon overnight. Like, I go and I study, and the neurosurgery, they have like little tests, and then you have mentors, and you gradually work up to a place where you can do this by yourself. And the same thing applies to meditation. Like, you think big and you start small.
Yes, I love that. And there are also so many types of meditation, right? So you see meditations that are very guided. You see visualizations, you see meditations with music, without music. how do we find the right practice for us?
Hmm. I think we have to ask ourselves, what do we want, first of all? Like, what is it that we're trying to achieve? Um, some of us will come into contact with it serendipitously, like I was, like, I found a meditation teacher straight away. Sometimes your girlfriend or boyfriend will drag you to a class and you're like, oh, there's something in this. Sometimes you hear something on YouTube or you listen to a podcast and it's like, oh, wow, I'm curious about that. So how we enter in really determines like our first kind of touch point with the practice. But in terms of choosing, like we have to get really clear on what is it that I want. Do I just want to feel good? Or do I just want to sleep, for example? And in which case you might choose like relaxing yoga nidra practices and down regulative practices. If it's I'm so confused and I'm lost in my life, then you want to find a teacher and a practice and a lineage that really helps you understand your mind. So Buddhism or Vedas might be like a way of practicing. It's getting really clear and then doing the research to find, okay, what is the path that I want to follow? And I really advocate for a path or a lineage because I feel like there's so much you can learn and grow from that way, as opposed to kind of showing up to do 5-10 minute practice, which aren't bad, which are a great place to begin. But eventually you want to study something or follow in the footsteps of people that have done this for 3,000 years and have proved that there is a way to be supremely and infinitely happy.